Also herzlich willkommen. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. So we go in English
Okay.
For this wonderful concert. And I'm very happy to have you here. So let's start with the ladies. Karine Berny,
Yes.
from Coiffée. Grégory Dargent from Sirventés. Laetitia Dutèche from Coiffée. And the Master of Ceremony, Mano Terron. Please give them a clapping hand.
Bravo.
We had a very impressive night because we thought that we can really learn from the history. And you presented all those fantastic songs from the 11th, 12th and 13th century. And we have this festival here talking about confessions. So I would like to know what was the confession of tonight which was important for you, if you think about all these poets you have presented to us. What was the point, the common point of all these poets?
Well, I personally only confess before priests, but without kneeling now, I can say the most important thing we all together realized, from my point of view, is that there is a meaning. We all are inspired by poetries. We took the Troubadoure's poem from the medieval ages, La Malcoiffée, sing poets from the 19th and 20th century, and from today's poets also. And we mixed all them. It's a special kind of poetry, you know. Occitan poetry is very specific because it has, since the beginning, and it began long time ago, like 1,000 years ago, but since the beginning, it has a very special glance, a very special way of staring power and empowered people. And so this poetry is a way of empowering also a few meanings that had been left by the central power. So to us it's very important because this poetry carries the spirit of Occitan civilization, if I can say so, or the Occitan specificity is carried by poets and musicians. And that is very important for all of us to be conscious and to be aware of this reality, and also to not to revendicate or not to yell this meaning to the world all the time. We can just exactly in the mood of confession, make people aware that we carry this heritage that we will never renounce and we will never abandon.
I think this is a very important point, and I am wondering if there is a different angle you can say from the point of view of women. Are there different, maybe?
I have something to say, but it's not...
okay, feel free,
To give a follow.
Yeah, please.
For me, the beauty of all this is the link between... the link is the language, is Occitan. And the poetry of Troubadoure, there wasn't poor people, there was noble, I don't know, voilà. And their poetry of this noble is... join the poetry of country people, poor people, popular, I don't know, peasants. And this link is the beauty of this project for me. Voilà. After the place of the woman,
Okay, so we skip it. Good.
The important thing, I think, she's right to point it out. It's the way in Occitan poetry, most of the poets, either popular or we should say like academic, but there's no Occitan Academy, but there's kind of academical way to write poems. Most of these people are linked together in the caring and in the idea of not conserving, but in the idea of making new inventions all the time in this language and using this language as part not of their identity but of their heart, which is different.
And let's say this Occitan language is not your first language, it's your adopted language. How do you define the relation between French and Occitan in your daily life? Because you use a language on stage. Is there any place where you use Occitan in daily life nowadays?
It depends. I use it. I didn't learn it at school. I always heard it in my with my grandparents, and I learned it. I heard it at home. But I'm a kind of Indian, you know. From my generation, we are not so many. And I learn it every day with my child. I learn before playing tonight. I was talking with my child.
So it's still a living
Occitan
language. It's not
yes, it's a living language, but hardly living language because France doesn't like other language than French. So
yes.
it's not easy, but it's still alive.
Yes, we have to explain it maybe to those here in the hall that in French, or let's say we have the convention, the UNESCO convention that minority language in the different European countries are accepted at the same level as national language. But only France didn't sign up this convention, and so this defines a little bit the politics towards the language.
There is also a European convention, not only from the UNESCO, not only from the United Nations, but also from the EU. There is a minority languages chart that has never been signed up by French people, from French power. It is not important. These people will die. I mean, the language will still be alive. I don't have any doubt of this when I hear Laetitia speaking Occitan to her children. So to me, it's like very clear that the language will keep on living without any problem. The only problem is the living people at the power, but they will die, so they're not a problem anymore for us. It's like we all know we're going to die, and all the problem we carry with us will also do. So it's a kind of joyful reason to perform Occitan music and perform, because we celebrate every day these people's death. We every day celebrate these people's death.
Yes, I see. So we understand how important the rebellion is, which is carried along through the language. And I'm really wondering how you feel with facing all these daily problems in your surrounding. If having this proudness of speaking Occitan, of knowing all the songs, does it make you stronger in struggling in daily life?
For me, I didn't know Occitan language before I met La Coiffée. So for me, it was just a way of life. I came in the south of France, and then I learned Occitan, and then I learned all the the countries, how the peasants work on the earth and how they just make the form of the nature, and it's in the songs too. And for me, this is I'm very proud of that, because now I know, the poem, the one who knows the flowers of his land. C'est celui qui connaît les fleurs de son pays.
The one who knows the flowers of its land.
Knows his culture and have the power of his earth. I don't know how to say.
Yeah, he knows the power of the earth.
Yes.
Of the earth he walks in. Actually, Grégory is not Occitan at all. He comes from Alsace. I don't know the word. But
we have a language.
they also have a strange language in Alsace.
Yeah.
It's a German one.
Or French one, I don't know.
Yeah, a French one, yeah.
Yeah, we also have a language in Alsace, but it's not the same story.
No.
But it's still spoken, and you can find a lot of places for children where they can learn Alsatian, but it's not official. You can't make your exams in Alsatian or those kind of things, but you can still feel it, but more in the countryside than I'm living in Strasbourg, and there, when I was younger, I could listen to, I could hear Alsatian every day. When I was just shopping for buying some bread or looking for anything, I was hearing this language. Now it's more rare, where we have to go in the countryside or where you can find more low classes people, and that's my favorite bars. And so there you can listen to this language, and you can find Arabic people speaking Alsatian. And for me, that's wonderful to see that, because we've got immigration for 80 years, 90 years. They were working in the woods as woodchopper, bûcheron.
Bûcheron. Bûcheron.
Bûcheron,
Yeah.
woodcutter.
Woodcutters.
In the woods.
Yeah.
And they were only working with Alsatian people, so they were learning Alsatian. And that's quite beautiful, I think, and this language is living the same way. But in France, we have 150 languages. I've seen a map.
Yeah, not on French soil, but if you include French colonies, like Guyane, La Réunion, all the colonial remains that we still have, but not for long, I think. There are many more. I think, yes, 150.
I've seen a wonderful map with a poetry.
Yeah.
And you can just click it on the internet. The same poetry said in all the small region of France. And that's wonderful, because it's like a gradation in the language. You can really listen going south and south and south, how the language move. And all the language are the story of human beings. And for me, when I'm listening to Occitan, in fact, my father was a little bit speaking Occitan, as he was from Narbonne in south of France. But far away, you only know the bad words. And But it's our story. And that's why I'm like Manu, I'm not afraid, because that's something that will be there. We have in Brittany great energy for the language. There are a lot of things, or people less or more violent about this. But I'm confident with that. I'm more... it's more complicated for the small languages that are not official tongues, but just patois, I don't know the words, spoken in small region in the mountains. We have Welsh language. It's just spoken in a little area from the Vosges, and those languages are no more spoken.
Threatened or not spoken anymore. Yeah, that's true.
But Occitan it's a big area, a big culture behind this, so I think it will survive.
Yeah.
So in the last song we heard that you were improvising new lyrics.
Yeah, I forgot the words, so I had to.
In Occitan.
Yeah.
So from the last two songs before, we heard that there is a contemporary writer, composer. So you still continue creating new songs in Occitan language. And what is the difference between the today's Occitan language and the old one? Is there different
between the old one? You mean the Troubadoure ones?
Yes, and the today's.
For me, who speaks Occitan, actual Occitan, modern Occitan, Troubadoure language is it's different.
It's more sophisticated, or more different words, or just to
there is a lot of words who are the same, and there is the way to write words who is different, and constructions a little bit different, but because it's maybe less popular, I don't know, maybe more literary, no? I don't know.
I think that it's less the same difference you have between the Minnesänger German and the nowadays German. It's a medieval language, so it has lots of medieval roots that are stuck to the period and to the actually. But when for some people in northern Occitanie, towards Piemonte, for instance, they have Occitan speakers there. This Occitan, medieval Occitan, is understandable. And for some other people, like the Duke of Piedmont, King of Sardinia, once sent away lots of people to southern Italy, in Calabria. And in Calabria, you have people who speak, actually, the 13th and 14th century Occitan, which is very interesting. And they live in a small community, a small village, called, I don't remember the name. En Calabre, tu sais comment il s'appelle? No. And this small community, they speak the Occitan from the 14th century. And I went there, and I don't remember the name of this strange city. And it's hardly understandable what they speak. And it's perfectly Occitan, it's 100% Occitan.
It's like a little island.
It's like a little island of people speaking medieval language and Calabrian dialect. So the whole thing is a bit strange, and it's too strange for me. I had to go back home. And but the whole thing is it's not only a language issue. The encounter and the meeting with Mama Coiffée and Sirventés, it was your proposal, and I must confess that if I have a confession to make tonight, that was a good idea from you.
Thank you very much.
And a really good one. And it's like we had the same concerns with La Malcoiffée about vocalizing the music and especially about making it. Expressing it with singing, because we all believe that singing will make people speaking again. This is our aim. So we train many people in our respective regions. In Languedoc, in Marseille and Provence, we train people, we give lessons, we spread out the language anywhere we can with singing. And it started working, I must confess also this. It started working because it's like it's like becoming something normal to sing in polyphony in Occitan. As 20 years away, it was completely unusual and not known at all. So I think, for me, it's the most interesting thing. Is like, how can we make a language live another life for other centuries without political power behind? Because it was obvious for Israel, for Basque Country, for Catalonia. It could be a new life for the languages because they had power, political power. We don't have any. It's like we don't have any political power. So we have to care about the language issues through the music.
What is the challenge to put the Occitan language into music, into sang melodies, because you went back to the polyphonic structure.
Well, up
This
until-
is one, but I think there are some more challenges. And
Yeah.
I would, music-wise, I would like to understand what is a
Polyphony
point.
is actually a challenge because the regions we come from, except Laetitia's mother region, the regions we come from are regions without polyphony. The region of monodic songs.
So this is Marseille.
Marseille, Languedoc, Narbonne, whole Occitanie. It's the whole southern third of France. Normally speaks Occitan, but only one small region in the Pyrenees region sing in polyphony. Polyphony is not at all a traditional way of singing.
So you popularized the polyphony style of Occitan
We made it out.
songs.
We made it out. We had to invent it.
So this is, I think, a special, interesting aspect.
It
Fantastic.
is a very functional music. It has a function. And now music and polyphony has a function, the function to teach Occitan to people. And most of the people who come to our choirs, workshops or anything, stage, atelier.
How many students you have in your choirs and projects, more or less, so that we can get an idea?
I won't answer to this question, but to the next, the one before, again. What he said, the new creation of new polyphony, or polyphony was in places that it's just a way to bring people to sing together, and it's the way to make them reappropriated. It's okay, this word, his own culture, his own language. It's a way, polyphonic or something else, it could be something else, to make people together, sing together, and they realize that the best thing they have to do is to sing in the language they have in particular, something special. In French, a lot of people are singing in French, a lot of people are singing in English, a lot of people are singing in Spanish, in Italian, but Occitan, oh yeah, it's cool, well, it's our. It's also a way, polyphony or not, a way to make people sing together. These things they have in special, and they are realizing they have something interesting, will never be in the mainstream, will never be in the media, will be always something à côté, besides, and that's the strong. That's the force of this culture. Will be always besides.
It's always
You understand?
minority more. What you?
I don't like this name, minority, majority. Just not the same, pas pareil on one side.
Special, yeah.
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 Absolument. Yeah, we are definitely out of the center. We are a periphery, and we're not proud, or it's not a question of pride, but it's like it's our faith. So we have to accept that we'll never be in the center, and we don't belong to the conception of France that is the one of the center, and we are very happy with it. Yeah.
Very good.
And it's the same for the music. But what I want to specify is the music is functional. It has a function, has a name, and it's not a music. It's not art for art. It's something different. It has something to do with what we belong to, certainly, but what we work for every day. And to us it's very important. And the music maybe is the most enhancing part of our life of language spreaders. So to us music is very important in this aim. it could be also in another one, but this one is specific and makes music, and music makes us live, which is a nice function.
This is
isn't
very
it?
important.
Yeah, and I want to thank Gregory especially for this, because he also understood. It was difficult, like 2 days ago, to invite him to take part in a vocal project and to be as an instrumentist, as an oud player, part of a vocal project that is very harmonized, and it is very not different, but it is very. It was quite a bet and I'm very happy. I must say I'm very, very happy he did it with brilliantly tonight, really brilliantly, and I think he's not concerned with by Occitan poetry and all the things he's interested in, but he's not as concerned as we can be, but he makes us being more concerned about what we do with His Excellency. So with his work and his way of seeing the music. So we are all of us, happy to have worked with him and Etienne tonight.
Yes, I think it was a very beautiful element you brought into this project with your instrument, and your instrument brought a supplementary aspect of language, and this fits perfectly in my ears. And
I must say, yeah, and which is Gregory chose an instrument that is really connected to the Orient world and to the Eastern world, and he makes it its own. And in a way, that's what we do with Occitan. That's what we do with Occitan. So yeah, and Occitan music, and he creates with it. He has to create because there is no oud tradition in France. There is no oud tradition in Alsace. In Alsace, there is a small one, a Turkish one, but in an Alsatian oud tradition, there's not. So he has to create. He has to create his ancestors, and he has to create his universe. With this, and I like this way of inventing something, because there is nothing to help you to do it.
Yeah. And you are really a very creative group of people, and we can invite you to go to the south and to learn some of those songs. And I will not miss to say, unfortunately, there was no CD selling up in the hall, but if you want to have some CDs to carry home, to learn maybe some songs, there are some CDs with Marie from La Mal Coiffée. This is what I just wanted to say to everybody. Thank you very much for this little inside view of your Occitan world, and I want to thank you very much for the trust to make this great collaboration.
Thanks to you.
And and I hope that this is another impulse to keep alive the Occitan spirit and the Occitan language in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Guys.